Welcome to this special Best of edition of the Prayer Link. Today, we take a look back at some of our favorite interviews that will certainly encourage and inspire your life. We begin with Fox News war correspondent Benjamin Hall. He miraculously survived a Russian bomb attack while covering the war in Ukraine. And 1 year later, he's released a new book called Saved. Our very own Wendy Griffith spoke with Hall about how his faith has helped him to make an amazing comeback.
This was the scene of a battle just a few days ago as the Russians tried to move forward. They're still shelling it right now.
Thanks to his trademark British accent and reporting style, it didn't take long for Fox News correspondent Benjamin Hall to stand out for his coverage of the war in Ukraine.
When we speak to these guys, they're feeling optimistic.
But on March 14th, 2022, Hall became the story as he and his crew fell under Russian attack on the outskirts of Kyiv.
We slowed down at a checkpoint, an abandoned checkpoint. As the car slowed down, out of nowhere came that first bomb, came whistling out of the sky. Landed about 30 feet in front of us. Quickly, we knew we had to move, and there was a shout to reverse the car to get back. But then a few seconds later, the second bomb landed, and that landed just next to the car. It blacked me out. I was as close to death as I think you can be, in a total silent blackness. And into that blackness came my daughter, my 7-year-old daughter, Honor. And she was right in front of me, as clearly as anything. She said to me, "Daddy, you've got to get out of the car." And my eyes opened. I was brought quickly back into the world, and I took grabbed my way towards the door of the car. And just after I had gotten out of the car, the third bomb hit the car itself. And that one threw me away, and I was out for a little bit.
When Ben regained consciousness, he saw the serious nature of his injuries.
I'm on fire. My right leg is gone. My left foot's gone, mostly gone. And I'm putting the flames out. I'm rolling around. I'm trying to stop the fire. No one knew where we were. No one knew we'd been hit, and there was no cell phone reception. And that was the moment there where you have to pray. You have to think, what am I going to do?
Then a car with Ukrainian special forces drove past.
It didn't see us the first time, but it got lost down the road and it came back. I woke up soon after that in a hospital inside Kyiv, a small Ukrainian hospital. But then I knew I wasn't saved either because there was no way out of the city. And then began this incredible evacuation led by Save Our Allies, who managed to get me out on the Polish Prime Minister's train.
In addition to his right leg and left foot, Hall also lost an eye and severely damaged a hand. Even worse, his longtime friend and cameraman, Pierre Zakchevsky, and Ukrainian producer Sasha Kushnova did not survive. Clinging to life, Hall had to endure a 10-hour train ride and cross the border to Poland.
We'd managed to break through the roadblocks to get there, break through the curfews. People were checking my wounds to see if I was really injured or if we were a Russian hit squad coming in. And that was another point where I just had to pray. And it was when I got to the Polish border 10 hours later, through incredible agony, that there was a US Black Hawk waiting. And as I rose up into the sky, then that was the time that I knew that survival was over and recovery was beginning.
Tell us about the recovery, though, because that was hard.
Yes, and the recovery continues to this day. Every day I'm at physio. I see doctors most days. There's still a lot of work to be done. But I was first taken to Landstuhl in Germany, biggest US base outside, a hospital outside, and where all the injured from Afghanistan and Iraq had been treated with very similar wounds to mine, called polytrauma.
In his new book, Saved, A War Reporter's Mission to Make It Home, Hall writes that he had to keep fighting, not just for himself, but for his wife and 3 young daughters.
I didn't want my daughters to come and see me straight away. I didn't want them to see me so badly injured, unable to move. That's what drove my recovery, knowing that instead of them coming to see me, I would get better as fast as I could and as well as I could every single day. And so every day I woke up and the plan was to do more than I did the day before.
What was it like when your daughters first saw their daddy after this?
Oh, I mean, it was this, but I was quite nervous because I had spoken to other people, veterans who'd had similar accidents as I'd had, similar limb loss, whose children were very afraid of them when they first saw them. But when I walked in that door and I knew they were waiting inside, I didn't quite know what it would be like. And then that one moment as they just all ran up and grabbed hold of me, my Honor, my eldest, wouldn't let go. And there was just this moment where she wouldn't let go of me. You're back, you're back, you're back. And we all cried. And it was just, that's what I had worked so hard to do. They were what saved me as well, was getting home. So that moment was one of just total joy, real joy.
And your wife has been such a support through all of this.
Oh, everything. I mean, one of the things I said the first time I saw her when I was in Landstuhl in Germany, a few days after I got out, the first thing I said was sorry. I said, I'm so sorry. Not because of what had happened, but because of what lay ahead. I knew that it meant a different life for us. She said, what have we got to do? Where do we do it? We will do it together.
And Benjamin, you said you felt the prayers of everybody during your recovery and even now.
Every single day I received letters. I received messages in the mail and social media from people across America, thousands of them, sending prayers, willing me on, sending blessings. And every single time I read one of those, it gave me that another little level of strength to push through. And, you know, in many ways, I am now much closer to God. I feel closer than I was before.
I've heard in some of your interviews, you've said God saved me for a reason. Do you know what that reason is?
No, I mean, I wouldn't go as far as to say I know what it is, but I do know that I was saved because of incredible support and help and prayers and kindness and bravery from other people. And if I can give some of that back, then I think I would be doing the right thing.
And Benjamin, what about now? Are you back full-time at Fox?
I have a couple of operations coming up in the next month, so not at the moment, but we're already talking about some plans, and I want to focus on some of the optimistic side as well. I'm so amazed at the incredible people I've met, the prayers that have been said, and the heroes around me that actually for the first time I want to tell some of those really uplifting, optimistic stories.
Wendy Griffith, CBN News.
And up next, author Karen Moore joins us to talk about the power of prayer. Stay with us, you don't want to miss it. Welcome back to this special edition of the Prayer Link. Author Karen Moore knows all about prayer and the power that it holds. She wrote more than 120 inspirational books, including her latest, Prayers to Strengthen Your Soul. She recently joined us to talk all about it.
Welcome to the Prayer Link.
Thank you. Good morning, Wendy.
Good morning.
You know, the reading from the book for today was kind of interesting to me because it starts out with, "You're God and I'm not." And I think sometimes I just have to remind myself that God still reigns.
Amen.
God is in control. And so it's always good for us to do that.
Ah, that's so good. Well, Karen, why is prayer so important to the life of a Christian?
You know, I think that, you know, we need to be strengthened all the time, and prayer is our privilege. It's our connection to God. It's the way that we can not only just remind ourselves who God is and how powerful he is and how loving and forgiving he is, but also that we can remind ourselves about the things God has done for us before, because sometimes when we're in a crisis or we're in a difficult time, we can forget that. So I love the idea that, oh, I can say to myself, you know, remember God showed up when this happened before.
Well, what do you say to those who feel intimidated by prayer, feeling as if they can't pray meaningful prayers?
I say to them to give God a chance to come before him and know that he loves them, that he wants to talk to them, that he invites them to come and be with him, and that he doesn't care about their words as much as he cares about their heart and what they bring and how they humble themselves before him.
Well, your latest book is called Prayers to Strengthen Your Soul. What is your goal for the readers of your new book?
You know, my goal here is simply to get people to be inspired again about the idea of prayer. I think sometimes we've learned prayers as kids, or we've practiced a certain kind of routine with prayers, or we've simply gotten to the place where we think we've prayed everything we know how. And I would like us all to feel comfortable with the idea that prayer is so big, it's so important, it's so powerful, that the more we do it, the more we'll connect to God, the more strong, the strength will come to us that we need.
And Karen, you write about praying, but also pausing to listen to God's responses. Is the pause equally important as the prayer?
It's absolutely important. You know, I have a friend who tells us that if we're going to talk to God and we have 5 minutes, that we should give God 4 minutes and us 1. And I think often we do just the opposite. We tend to do all the talking, but we don't stop to listen to what God would have to say to us.
I know sometimes when we start to pray, you know, the phone rings, the doorbell rings. What can we do to avoid distractions while we're praying?
You know, I think the best thing we can do is to stop for just a second and allow that distraction to just walk right through and go away and say, Lord, here I am, and I'm ready now to talk with you.
And where can we learn more about, where can we learn more about your ministry, Karen?
You know, I have a website, KarenMooreAuthor.com, and I'm doing some speaking. So when I do that, I usually post where I'll be speaking.
All right. Well, Karen Moore's latest book, number 120, is called Prayers to Strengthen Your Soul, and you can get it wherever books are sold. Karen, thank you so much for being with us on the Prayer Link and for this encouragement.
Thank you so much.
She's the author of several missionary biographies and just published her very first novel, Isabella's Voyage. Jemima Wright joins us next to talk about her own amazing love story and give some advice and hope to those who are still waiting. Jemima Wright is the deputy editor of Woman Alive, a UK Christian magazine, and the author of 3 missionary biographies. And she's recently just released her very first novel called Isabella's Voyage, Dare She Heed Hope's Call. She recently joined the Prayer Link to talk all about the book and a little bit about her own life. Take a look.
Jemima, welcome to the Prayer Link.
Thank you so much. It's great to be
welcome.
here.
Well, before we dive into your wonderful book, tell us about you. You're from England by way of South Africa. How did this happen?
Yeah, so I was born and brought up in England, but in 2021 I got married to a South African who lives in Cape Town, so I've moved to Cape Town.
So, Jemima, when you were in your late 30s, still single, very much wanting to be married, God spoke to you that He was the one that was going to open that door because you were trying in your own strength. What did God say to you?
Yeah, I mean, I had been single forever, and it seemed an impossible thing for me to meet someone, find a husband, and get married. And I was living in London, and I had a dream one night. And in my dream, I was standing in front of a big steel immovable door. And I'm trying to open this door, and I'm, you know, throwing my body against it. Nothing does not budge. And in my dream, I give up. And then I wake up. And when I woke up, I said, Lord, that's what it feels like to try and find a husband and get married. It's a closed door. It's impossible. Just so you know, Lord, that's what it feels like.
We know. We've been there.
You know.
Definitely know.
Oh
We've
my
been
gosh,
there.
you know. Well, that evening, I went to a worship night at a friend's house, and everyone's worshipping in the kitchen. And suddenly this girl who I didn't know said, I've got a picture for someone here. I see a picture of a big steel immovable door. You have tried everything in your own strength to open it, and you can't open it. And God says to you, it's not by might, it's not by power, it's by my spirit, says the Lord. Yeah. That was the first time I felt God speak to me about the situation. I was like, okay, Lord, if you just answered me and you're going to do it.
Amen.
Thank you, Lord.
Tell us about Alistair. How did you guys meet?
Yes, so that I had that word about the door, but then in the natural, nothing happened. I couldn't see anything. Fast forward to COVID, I left London, I moved back to Norfolk, England, where my parents lived, and my dad was an evangelist. He loved talking to everyone about Jesus, but in lockdown, he couldn't talk to anyone, and he'd heard about Instagram, and he said to me, I mean, he was 86, he didn't have a smartphone. Anyway, he said, should I go on Instagram? I said, no, you should not, yeah. I put him off it, but then I thought, well, maybe I could do it. I could put him on Instagram. And so I started an account for him called Walking as Jesus Walked, and I filmed him telling 1-minute miracle stories. And that is how Alistair got it. I followed him without knowing it, because I just followed, I went to similar accounts as my dad, followed all the followers, hoping they'd follow my dad back. Somehow I followed Alistair in this, but we now don't know how, because he's not really on Instagram. So that, I didn't even know
So it was a God thing.
It was
So
a
God
God
opened the door.
It's powerful.
Well, we love your new novel. I do. And of course, I endorsed it. And I made the cover.
Yes.
A thoroughly enjoyable read, which should become a movie.
man.
Which I pray to. So tell us about Isabella's Voyage, which is a historical fiction based in 1880s England and Hawaii.
Yes. So it's a story that I started 10 years ago, so it's been a long time in the making, but it was inspired by a real woman called Isabella Bird, who was an English adventurer and explorer, and she travelled alone when women didn't travel alone without a chaperone. And it's a story based in England and Hawaii. Isabella Bird went to Hawaii. It was then called the Sandwich Islands. And so that's the story. It's not her life, but it's inspired by her life. And I started this 10 years ago, and it's only last year that I found out she's my third cousin, 4 times removed.
Isn't that
I had no idea.
God, it's amazing.
Yeah.
So when
Wow.
I don't normally read fiction, but I loved it because it's historical fiction and you learn so, and I love that
wait
time
to read
period.
it, and it sounds like a movie.
Well, it's very much, you know, like Pride and Prejudice. You feel like you're going back to that time frame. And I fell in love with Isabella, but I couldn't help notice she was a lot like you.
Well, they do say that your first novel is autobiographical in some way. And so, I mean, it is, it's not me, but I wrote it, and
I love her. She's amazing.
Yeah.
What do you want readers to take away from this wonderful story that you've written?
I think this is a story that I needed to read, and it's a story of hope. That when you're looking at your future and you think there's dead ends in front of you, and you don't know what's ahead, and circumstances can change when you least expect it. And so I was writing the story kind of prophetically without realising it. And then it happened in my own life with meeting Alistair. God had said to me in January 2021, your husband's coming in spring, he's coming from Africa. And in spring I met him. So,
but when you first heard that, you were like, okay, God, that sounds great, but I've heard this before. I'm not going to put all my eggs in one basket.
Totally, because I was like, well, you've said spring, but maybe you mean spring 2052. Like, I don't know the timing on this. So I couldn't hold on to it, and I didn't want to be disappointed, because I was confused about the door dream, because God had spoken, but then nothing in the natural had happened. So when he said, your husband's coming in spring, coming from Africa, I was like, Lord, amen. But anyway, in April, Alistair got in contact in the last spring.
And I think that is the biggest struggle for all of us who we love the prophetic. And so many times you get that prophetic word and you're like, oh, it's going to happen in the next 5 minutes, or it's going to certainly happen by next week. And then literally a month, a year, maybe 2 years, in my case, waiting for a husband took.
You know what I've learned? Is that's why God gives the prophetic word, because he knows that there's going to be a time period where we're going to have to wait. So he gave us that word
to hold on to.
But it's hard though, because we
it's
have
like
this
it's a test. Well, there's a test between the time the word is given. And it's all about faith, isn't it?
Yes, totally. And I had an increased expectation that God was going to do something, because my dad actually died in November 2020. He had prostate cancer. He was 86. But like 2 weeks before he died, I went to visit him in the hospice, and he said, Jemima, the first thing I'm going to ask Jesus when I get to heaven is to bring your husband. And when he said it, I just knew there was going to be a shift, and there was a shift.
And there was a shift. And he came from South Africa. I mean, it is a movie. Can I see your booklet? First, I just love the cover.
It's gorgeous.
Dare, Isabella's Voyage, Dare She Heed Hope's Call, and notice the endorsement on the cover.
Somebody named Wendy.
Wendy Griffith. Who's that? Okay, a thoroughly satisfying read that I pray will become a film. I think I was channeling my English, Wendy, you know? Because I normally don't talk like that.
I know.
A thoroughly satisfying read. I could not put this down.
I want to read it. I'm going to wait.
Now, there is such a great twist at the end.
Okay.
Please get this book, everybody.
Get it.
Jemima, I hope you keep writing. This is your first novel, but you are a writer. You're a journalist with a wonderful magazine. Are we getting a wrap? Please keep writing. Please visit us again. We're so excited to hear your amazing love story, which, by the way, Jemima's amazing love story is in my next book called You Didn't Miss It, which is coming out this summer. You didn't miss it.
Amen.
We didn't miss it.
We didn't miss it. Right on time.
All right, Isabella's Voyage, Dare She Heed Hope's Call is available on Amazon or wherever books are sold. You can also follow her on Instagram at Jemima Wright, at Jemima.Wright. All right, Jemima, God bless you. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much. Amen. Up next, we're bringing you the Word of the Week. Don't go away. Stay tuned. Welcome back, and before we go, here's the Word of the Week from James Wilkins.
Faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. Hebrews 11:1. That's one of the scriptures that I go to when I feel down on my faith. It's one of many scriptures in the Holy Bible that talks about faith. But sometimes you got to realize this. We get down in the dumps. We feel like we can't do that challenge before us. We feel like we can't get that project complete because we lack faith. In the human flesh, it happens. We get so intimidated by it that we walk around in fear. But I want to remind you of this very thing about God. He does not give us the spirit of fear, but of love and a sound mind. So we need to walk in boldness in our lives, walk in boldness in these projects that he set us out to do, that book that he wants us to write, that content he wants us to produce to get to the masses of people. We need to walk boldly in faith, knowing that God has got us every step of the way. There are many instances in the Bible where faith was activated. I think about Joshua and the whole story with Joshua. I love that book of the Bible. But in particular, I like the fact that God said, be strong and courageous. Why did he tell Joshua to be strong and courageous? Because he was going to be with him every step of the way. And he's going to do the same thing for us. If he asks us to do it, we feel like we got that tug to do that project. We got that tug to write that book. We got that tug to do this or to do that. We have to trust him that he's going to see us through just like he did with Joshua. Trust him in every way possible in your life. Go out there and challenge yourself. Go out there and push yourself to be the best that you can be because God's going to provide for you and he's going to see you through every step of the way. I hope this encouraged your heart today and I hope that you're encouraged. Take care and God bless your week.
And that's going to do it for this edition of The Prayer Link. Remember, you can stay connected with us on Instagram. That's @The Prayer Link. And until next time, God bless you. And remember, prayer really does work. God bless you.